Let's ask my next guest, Congressman Steve Scalise. Congressman, thanks so much for being here tonight. You know, we knew that they didn't like people on the right. We knew they didn't like the president. But now Facebook or Apple is taking down Parler, which is pretty much a right, conservative communication social network. I mean, how far can this go? And as a congressman, what can you do?
Well, Judge, a lot of alarming things about last week, but, the censoring from big tech, unfortunately, has been going on for a long time. The Washington Post article that's been proven correct about Hunter Biden was banned by Twitter. What we really need is conservative alternatives, and it's really just free speech alternatives. It's what started Fox News, because all of the mainstream media prior to Fox News being created would only tell the left's story, and there was no fair and balanced reporting, and it created that vacuum. And I think another vacuum is getting created where there's a need for more parlors, more public squares, just places where people can go to talk about ideas. And long before Wednesday, conservatives were being silenced by big tech, and that's been going on for years, and it's been a serious problem.
But Congressman, what can you do? Can you take away their immunity? Can you? The DOJ is suing them for antitrust violations. They're a monopoly. When is the government going to regulate these people? They're bigger than the government. They are bigger than the government.
I think if you look at the laws already, they don't qualify for the protections of the law, because those protections, whether it's Section 230 or others, are there for people who are true public squares, town halls, where you can go and talk about anything. That's not what they are anymore. They're publishers, they're censors, whatever you want to refer to it as. But once, and as you point out, the Ayatollah can still post there. And once they start saying they're going to allow certain speech, but not all speech, they don't deserve the protections that those liability protections like 230 allow people. So all of that needs to be addressed. Clearly, which is bigger issues from what happened Wednesday. But yeah.
Oh, I know that. But this is the next hill for people on the right. We can't share our ideas, our thoughts. We can't learn about what people are saying who are conservatives or who are Republicans. This is major stuff. But I want to segue back now to election integrity. Look, there's still millions of Americans who are not happy with the election, who still don't trust what happened. I know that it's up to the states, but what can be done by the states to ensure that there's signature verification or voter ID, or the mail-in doesn't, change the election laws a minute before the election? What do you recommend so that Americans feel more comfortable with just a free and fair election?
Judge, what we've got to get back to is what our founding fathers laid out in the Constitution, and that is that legislatures are the bodies who are supposed to determine what election day looks like in each state. I don't want the federal government running national elections, but I also don't want the opportunities for fraud. And just, you look at some of the changes that were made at the last minute, it wasn't through legislative bodies. They went to a Secretary of State and got them to completely change the rules in many states, or went to a court where they thought they could get a favorable opinion, and got rid of things like voter ID, got rid of things like, they added same-day registration, things that make it right for voter fraud. And I've seen it in my own state. We confronted voter fraud that had been going on for decades. And we finally put those powers within the Secretary of State and laid out rules that everybody plays by. Everybody ought to play by the same set of rules. And that's something going forward that we really need to address. And we ought to, by the way, be able to find out the results on election night, when a large state like Florida or Texas are able to get their returns by 10 o'clock at night. And then you've got some states. New York is still counting votes from the November election. The Claudia Tenney race hasn't even been called yet, for goodness sake. And that undermines trust, where they're finding ballots weeks and months later. That's got to end too. But, look, these are all things that
I have to ask you a question. I only have a few seconds. I agree with you. I only have a few seconds. You were shot by someone, when you were a congressman, by someone looking for Republicans. Again, you were in the House when it was literally breached by this mob. Is it worth it being a congressman?
Look, Judge, we've got to fight for this country, and we're going to fight for the future of this country. And what we saw Wednesday was disturbing on so many fronts. I was angry. about what I saw, and the people who did it are anarchists. You know, whether they support President Trump, whoever, whatever their motivation was, they all need to be held fully accountable, arrested. They attacked police. One police officer's dead. My heart goes out to the family of Officer Sicknick, who died. I mean,
Yeah,
many other
Officer
police officers. I saw a
Sicknick,
lot of them on
right.
Thursday who were attacked and are still recovering from those injuries. That's not who we are as Americans, and we all need to stand up against that unequivocally. And it can never happen again. We need to fortify the Capitol, by the way, because our enemies around the world were watching this too. And while we need to hold
Oh,
those people
yes.
accountable who did this, there's no excuse for what they did. Our enemies were watching this and
Right.
saw how to get into the United States Capitol and cannot be able
Shame
to
on
stop
us.
democracy.
Shame on us. All right. Congressman Steve Scalise, our hats off to you. Thank you for being a congressman. Thank you for what you do.